Alrighty, so today I'm going to show you how to overhaul your suspension on your 2002 Dodge Dakota, because why wouldn't you? So today I'm going to be doing the shocks, the sway bar bushings, and the sway bar links, because the front sway bar bushings are shot, the rear sway bar links have only about a 1/4 inch of play at both ends, and I'm pretty confident the shocks are bad because there's 100,000 miles on this 22-year-old truck, and the shocks have never been done. So yeah, we're going to be doing Monroe shocks all the way around because they were the cheapest decent thing I could get. And we're doing Moog, sway bar links, and bushings all the way around because I like blue. So first things first, let's get to the front sway bar. Alright, so we're laying under the truck because it's nice and cool, but also because I need to look at the suspension. And the shock should be pretty easy to remove the bottom mount, just those 2 bolts, and it flies out and hits you in the teeth. And sway bar link, it's got this ball joint down here, which is interesting, but it looks like I'm probably going to have to take the wheel off to do that, or I might be able to take the thing off ramps after I do the shocks and turn the wheels and do it that way. But it's got this funny bushing thing up here at the top, so I've just greased everything down. The sway bar bushings up here actually don't look that bad, but you know, it's $5, so might as well do them. The fun part with these front shocks is, like with all things on this stupid truck, going to be fun because the mounts are down there. Ooh, great. I get to dig under all of this. And of course, that's probably just going to spin on the shaft. Wonderful. Well, normally I would say sway bar bushings are the easy part, but Chrysler in their great and non-existent wisdom have put solid sway bar bushings on here, so I get to get the X-Acto knife and cut this off. Awesome. All right, front sway bar bushings are in. They weren't really that hard. They weren't actually that difficult to split, but they needed to be done. There was a ton of rust on the passenger side, and the driver's side is all ate up in there. So they weren't horrible, but it definitely needed to be done. So pretty quick and easy. You can do that with hand 15mm nuts and just take a screwdriver and pry the thing off. And these original OEM ones were unsplit, so I just took a box cutter and just split them down one side. Not very difficult at all. So the next thing I want to do is the shocks while I've got this thing on ramps, because I probably need to take this off of ramps to be able to do these tie rod ends. So this I believe is just, what is that, 10mm maybe 11mm. Just knock those off. Man, look at them booger welds. Only the best from Chrysler. So these shouldn't be too hard at all. The real bear is going to be getting something onto that top strut up there. If I'm lucky, I might be able to take the wheel off and fish something up through the control arm down there. I'm really hoping that bolt doesn't spin in place. It looks like another 15. But yeah. That one's the fun one. Manifold. What, is this fucking engine offset? This engine is off center. What the fuck? Come on, Chrysler. Jesus Christ. Wow, how have I never noticed that before? Yeah. Holy fuck, the whole engine's off like 6 inches. That must be some V6 shit right there or something. I don't know. Weird. No wonder this thing handles like a fucking dog. Anyway, hopefully I can fish something down onto that using all of my extensions and break that sucker loose, and hopefully it doesn't spin on the shaft, because if it does, I will cry. Alright, so things prove that they are annoying. So I've taken the wheels off and put the thing on stands, and I'm hoping it should be much easier to remove this from somewhere in here, wherever it is. This thing? Yeah, that should be far easier to do from here rather than from here. So that's the way to do it. Take your wheels off. It's gonna have to do that anyway for the tie rod end. So, yep. Sometimes doing more work means less work. All right, so this shock top is being non-compliant. I've got it about halfway up the threads, and then it jammed. Then we rounded off the top with the vice grips. Now I've got the vice grips on the actual shaft, and of course that's a hardened steel, so that's not going anywhere. And so had the impact gun on top with this clamp down on there, and we still got nothing, which means we're breaking out the fucking reciprocating saw now. Wonderful. God, I hate fucking single post struts. All right, so it smoked my reciprocating saw blade and didn't even leave a dent. And then tried the vice grips again, and it's just rounding my vice grips at this point. So, yeah, I'm left with no choice left other than an abrasive wheel, and I physically can't fit the angle grinder up in there, and I don't have any kind of stick blade for the reciprocating saw. I don't think they even make one. That sounds very dangerous. So I've got no choice left other than to do the upper ball joints, which I needed to do anyway. So I'm going to take this bracket off holding the brake caliper on, and then probably take this brake caliper off as well to get it out of the way. Split this upper ball joint, lift this up and cut underneath it, and while I have the upper ball joint split anyway, I'm just going to grind off these rivets and put the new upper ball joint in. And so since I'm doing that, I might as well do the lower ball joint as well, and since I'm doing that, I might as well do the entire front suspension. So great! I have all the parts. I was planning on doing it, just not this weekend. I guess I'm doing it this weekend because I can't even replace the fucking shocks. Good God, I hate this truck. Alright, so we're working through all the accoutrement, and this bearing's not in great shape. Great. Awesome. Wunderbar. Well, I think this upper ball joint might be bad. And I get the distinct feeling that there might have been something wrong with this sway bar link. Not certain what, though. Well, I guess I might as well put new parts on while I'm in here, because, I mean, these might be all right. Who knows? Anyway, those are junk, so I'm going to put those new ones of those back in. I guess I'm going to grind these off real quick. I got this guy free. He literally just took one tap with the mallet to the side of the steering knuckle and it came out, so that was pleasant, but gonna have to loosen this guy to get up there to get them bushings off, so not looking looking forward to that. But what I gotta do, because there's the prize right there, I gotta cut underneath that damn thing. Alright, God fucking damn, holy hell, gotta love Chrysler. So we have the entire upper control arm out, which is great because I also have upper control arm bushing, so this gives me an excuse to do those, but we finally now can access this upper bolt, and we have just enough room that I can slip yonder angle grinder under there and cut the head of that bolt off so I can actually take this goddamn shock off. Awesome. Except now I can't get the damn shock out because the spring will come out and kill me and fly 400 yards across the entire yard because I take the entire upper control arm off to get to it. So that's wonderful. So I'm gonna have to go find another jack stand or something I can jam under this, or hopefully I might be able to fish this thing out of there just enough. Put the shock back on so that this entire lower control arm assembly doesn't explosively decompress. And great, I can do the entire front suspension now, other than the bearing, which I didn't buy because I didn't think I was going to need them, but it looks like I do need them. And I guess I might as well do the tie rod ends since I have tie rod ends, and I've already fucked up the alignment almost guaranteed because of this shit here. So yeah. Might as well just take this thing and get in alignment now, so might as well do the tie rod ends. Fantastic. All right, so the shock is finally out, and in case you were wondering, the old shock is, in fact, bad. Like, all the way bad. Like, not even a little good. Because, you know, it's supposed to do this. So, yeah. Anyway, good thing we're doing this. All right, that's one of 4 new shocks in. Awesome. Well, I get to do the everything else now. I put the old hardware, the old isolators back on because I really didn't like the new one. They don't look anything like the old one. So, pro tip, don't ruin those. So, yeah, anyway, so those are back on. But, ball joint bushing time. Well, it's the first time I've ever gotten to use my hydraulic press, and I think we've got bushings free. At least something approximate to that. They're trying to escape, and that was pretty sketchy, and I probably bent these control arms, but at the very least, the bushings are coming out. Well, this has turned into an absolute fustercluck. So, we are currently cleaning up the threads after I mangled this thing, after I couldn't get the other bushing off. The other one, I just tapped it with a hammer once and it fell off. This one, I guess the press drove it on, so I should have popped it back off, but it was really cankered up underneath, so I think that's what did it. But had to split that with the zip disc, and then line up the split with the actual split in the internal metal part of the bushing, and then open that up with a screwdriver and then drive that out, and then run the grinder already into the threads because I didn't have a 5/8 course tap or die, of course. So then I had to grind off the end of that with the angle, or with the grinder wheel, and then clean that up with a file, and then come back in and clean it back up with the actual lock nut. And so now we have, ooh, that is screaming hot, but threads are more or less back to where they're supposed to be. Finally, so I'm going to sand off all these rust cankers and grease that up, put the bushings back on, put it all back together, and we're not going to do the bushings on the other side, I don't think. It's been 4 hours now and we're still on shock number 1. All right, so I'm having a bit of a struggle getting the bushings in, as can be expected, so I'm probably going to need to sand the piss out of those and take a couple thou out of there, and then heat these things up with a fucking map gas torch. And I've currently got the bushings in the freezer right now, and we'll blast them with some brake parts cleaner or something, just to freeze them for even further, and then I'm hoping that should be enough to just bloop them in there, but probably won't be, I've probably already bent and ruined this upper control arm. So if you're watching this, the amount of time and effort it takes to rebuild one of these upper control arms, definitely worth whatever it is, $80-$90 to just buy a new upper control arm. Do that. All right, that's all back together. It only took me 6.5 hours. I'm not even done yet. So I gotta put all the brakes and shit back on. But we have one side of the suspension done. Awesome. Awesome, fantastic. I think I'm gonna go find some food. I think my uncle's doing a cookout. I'm going to put this wheel back together and just pray I don't have to take this back apart, because, well, I mean, I'm going to. The alignment's off. I lined that upper control arm back up as best as I could. Quick little tidbit to help you out. Spray paint up here on your current alignment marks so that you can line it back up. I didn't do that. I had to line up the rust spots, so we'll see how well that does. I also need to grease up my grease fittings. Thank you, Moog, for putting that grease fitting like that for some reason. I'm confident they are not sided, so that's fun. And yeah, so I'm not going to do the lower ball joint because I can't take the lower control arm off easily. I mean, I guess I technically can, but I'm not doing that. So we're just going to have to hope that it's still good. I mean, the boot is still technically intact and I don't feel any play. I mean, there's more play in this bearing. So we'll be back in here at some point. And so whenever we do this, we'll tackle the lower control arm. I thought I liked this style where you could, just buzz off a ball joint and put a new one back on. I do not like this style. Kind of sucks, like a lot. Yeah. Burnt through 2 angle grinder batteries doing that. But anyway, I digress. I'm gonna put these brakes on, put this wheel on, I'm gonna go find some food and drink some beer. And we'll come back tomorrow. It was also 97 out today. I didn't know if I mentioned that. All right, now that is seriously all back together. And good Lord, that bearing is way worse than I thought it was. At least I think that's the bearing. I hope that's the bearing. I don't know what else it is. All right, once more into the fray. Woofda. All right, so now that I have a vague idea of what I'm doing through this entire process, I guess I can run through what it actually takes and what I'm going through to get this majority of the front suspension apart so that I can, refresh it. So, obvious first steps: jack it up, put it on stands, take the wheel off. But at this point, what I'm going to do is first, I'm going to take a can, just black paint, and just spray up here on the upper control arm, just right here, right in front of these lobes, so that I have a marker of where the front suspension was, where the control arm was, before I remove it, so that I put it back and don't fuck up my alignment too much. And then once I do that, I'm going to take a wire brush and clean up all of these threads, because I didn't do that on the other side, and that was a mistake. So I'm going to clean up all the threads I'm going to have to remove, the obvious ones. Something like that doesn't need to be cleaned. Something like that needs to be cleaned. That sucker, you clean them suckers up. Then I'm gonna spray it all down with penetrating oil. Liquid wrench is the best. PB Blaster's good because it's got better lubricating properties than liquid wrench. So these are gonna heat up pretty good. So I mean, PB Blaster's pretty good all around. But do all of that. Then I'm going to loosen the lock nut on the tie rod end because it's easier to do that while it's all supported. Then I'm going to remove this bracket on the upper control arm holding the brake line in place. and then pop this little retainer clip off of the, you just pry up in here, pry this up and out, and then out, and that frees up the brake caliper to come off. Then it's two 7mm hex bolts inside of these little rubber foreskins down in there. Bracket comes off. I'm going to zip tie it to the bumper right there. Normally I would zip tie it to the sway bar, but I'm going to be working on the sway bar link, so can't do that. And of course, take the rotor off when you take the caliper off. So then I'm going to make my best attempt at getting the shock off. If it comes out great, I'll just swap the shock while I'm doing that. Then I can move on to everything else. If it doesn't come off, then of course I gotta take the upper control arm off to be able to cut the thing off. But yeah, then it's just gonna be loosening all of these bolts, just getting them ready to go, just getting the ball joints ready to be popped, because they gotta go, and banging things off. I mean, the control arm is really the hardest part of all of this. So yeah, fun into the fray once more. All right, it only took an hour and a half this time, but we have the new shock in, the new outer tie rod in, the new sway bar link in, and we have the upper control arm off. So now comes the fun part of upper control arm bushings and ball joint. Fantastic. Okay, so I think I've cracked the code sort of on this whole bushing thing. All you need is a ball joint press kit and a 20-ton hydraulic bottle jack and a 5-pound hammer and map gas. But you can line this sucker up like this. Just put the nut on there on the threads, run it all the way down till it's flush with the top of the bolts, so that you're pressing on both the nut and the bolts so that you don't booger the threads. And you just line her up here, and I've got her on the largest cup for the ball joint press set here on the plates on one of the holders for the ball joint press, and I am just putting a little bit of weight on it until this washer down here supporting the bushing starts to bend, and then I am hitting it with map gas right here on the rim, and then coming in with the 5-pound hammer and just tapping the top of this washer and the top of this. And for the last one, it popped right out. And don't try and just sledge on the top of this thing freehand, because all of that force is going to go into compressing the bushing down here, and you're not going to do anything other than booger your threads, because that's what I did last time. And this time it seems to be going much smoother. Knock on wood. So I'm gonna see if I can drive this one out, and if it drives out, then hopefully I can drive the other ones in. And for the other ones, what I've been doing is I'm putting the bushings up there in the freezer section of my beer fridge, and then heating up the outside of this with map gas after I sand and file the inside of the slip to free it up just a little bit. And you spray it down with a little bit of penetrating oil, and then you line it all up in the press, get it real close. You drop the bushing down on there. So I'm placing the lip of the bushing on one of these ball joint cups, and then I'm lining it up just like so with this cup pressed on the upper control arm, and then I'm pushing the bushing in with this press from up above. And thus far it has worked, and it does require massaging, but it has worked thus far. All right, so I got both of them out, and this is how you get the first one in. Pretty straightforward. And second one is a little bit hairier. That's the one that requires banging and potentially eating a metal hockey puck in the mouth at 400 miles per hour. So fun. Get to do that next. But first, we gotta do the ball joint, because it's much easier to drive the ball joint out when you don't have that central bar in there. All right, so let me talk about this ball joint real quick. So what I'm doing to get this sucker off is I'm taking the zip disc and then cutting the little buttons off the bottom of this, at least as close as I can, and then taking the grinder disc, grinding it flush, and then I am taking some, spud punches and driving that out, while at the same time also taking a cold chisel and driving the chisel between this plate and the back of the upper control arm to separate it, and then hammering on the this guy itself with the spud punch. And just keep going and just hit it hard with a big hammer and hold it solid, and eventually it comes off. And then I'm just spraying this down with some rust reformer, just because I've got bare metal, and then throwing the new ball joint on. Simple as. Bolt goes facing upward, otherwise it slams into things, so don't do it that way. Also, it allows you to take it off while it's in the car. So anyway, that's all that is. So got the one bushing in, so I gotta just torque that and hope that one goes in without too much of a fight. All right, so that's the other bushing set. So that's how I've been doing it. So for the second one, you line it up like this. Got this cup down here pressed on the lip of the bushing. This cup up here pressed on the control arm. And you just line it up as best as you can. Start putting pressure on it. And then get it to where it's just putting a good bit of pressure on it and starting to flex. Heat it up with a MAP gas torch and then tap here, here, and here with your trusty 3-pound hammer and till it seats. And wouldn't recommend putting bushings on like that, but you gotta do what you gotta do. All right, there she is, all reassembled, greased up. Now I get to contend with the alignment. I think I'm gonna have to make one of those, get a piece of angle iron and either cut some V notches in it so that I can jam it up on these bolts or drill some holes in it, depending on how cooperative the steel and the drill bits are. And plop her on here so that I can measure distance, so I can line that up and then turn it the other way so I can, you know, check camber to at least make sure that both wheels are even. I'm pretty certain I got this upper control arm back more or less exactly where it was, so I'll just have to go over the other side and make sure that one is close enough to where it's supposed to be, so we shall see. But fun. Then I still got to do the rears. All right, so I'm doing the alignment now, and I just realized I put this fucking bar on backwards despite double checking and marking. So that's fucking awesome, which means I get to take all of this apart. Wonderful. Oh my fucking god. I have no one to blame other than Chrysler and myself, but I'm going to particularly blame Chrysler. Fuck. Alright, that's been fixed. Sometimes you just have to be fucking stupid, I guess. Alright, so everything is back together, and I believe I have things roughly aligned, so I can now actually tell you what the hell I'm trying to do. So if you look at this rotor here, it's towed in about a degree, maybe, pretty much straight up and down, and I've lined up this pipe here, piece of square tube, so that when you line up the corners, lines up just about in between the central and outer middle tread block. And then this side, as you can see. Then on this side, as you can see, the rotor is, again, towed ever so slightly inward, I think. I hope, I pray, and this one might be outward a little bit. Anyway, I digress. It's close enough for right now. Again, lined up. So what I've done with this jobber here is that I've got this mounted flush to the rotor, and I got one on the other side, and then I've taken a tape measure and just measured the distance from the front of this, and this is an 18-inch bar, so from the tip of this to the tip of that, and then over there on the back as well, and I've measured this out until it's exactly identical. So with this 1 1/4-inch aluminum tube, I am getting 65 3/8 on both front and back, and so that gives me a dead straight alignment, more or less. And so all I want to do is, ow, my funny bone, that wasn't funny, is get this thing close enough that I can drive it to a place to get it actually aligned, because you're never, ever going to get an alignment by hand done anywhere close to being good. And so I, of course, am going to need the upper control arms adjusted to get my camber correct. I've gotten as close as I can. I really want to die, also go inside and drink more beer. But again, 6 o'clock. And, oh man, it's fucking chilly in here. It's only 92 now. But, yeah, I would like to be done with this. So I just want to get this close enough that I can at least put this thing on the ground and drive it up and down the road and let the whole thing settle, because, you know, this whole suspension is probably not settled. So there's no point in really messing with the camber right now until I've let the thing sit in a bit. And additionally, I'm not going to get it all that perfect. So I just want to get it close enough that I can, you know, drive to the dump or do a beer run or get the thing to an alignment shop, just so I can, you know, go, you know, 30 miles one way and not die in the process if I, like, sneeze or take my hands off the steering wheel for a split second. It's all we're looking at right now. And so this whole bar setup will get you there. Now I have the fun part of putting all the wheels back on the front, and now doing the rear sway bar and the rear shocks. So fun. I get to do that. Awesome. Anyway, I'm tired. I would really like to not do this. I have to go drive 3.5 hours tomorrow to stand in the sun for 7 hours to drive 3.5 hours back. So this is a fun weekend. I digress. Let's get to the fucking rear. All right, well, we're working on the sway bar now. That hasn't been too much of a problem. Actually, the old sway bar bushing wasn't that bad at all. I probably could have left that, but might as well. $5. So anyway, that's done. Link is on there. Link isn't too hard, except these didn't come installed. Why Moog didn't just install the bushings, I don't know. They passed the savings on to their executives, I guess. And of course, surprise, surprise, Chrysler can't design a shock mount worth a shit. So this is what I'm having to do to get the shock off, because it's a non-captive 18 millimeter on the back. And of course they did 18 millimeter. Why wouldn't they do 18 millimeter? It just happens to be an impossible in-between size that, you know, no one has. And why couldn't they just, you know, spend half a cent on TIG wire to just weld that fucker onto the damn bracket up there? I don't know. Doesn't make a lick of sense. So anyway, they could have done 19 and 16, and then it would have worked with a 5/8 and a 3/4, but of course they did 15 and 18 because Chrysler, and I can just feel those fucking Nazi engineers post-war just laughing as they do this to me now, as they're boiling in hell, or in Argentina, wherever the hell they are. All right, well, the shocks are out, and surprisingly, the rear is not entirely dead. Definitely bad, but not entirely dead. So that's surprising because the fronts were absolutely totally shreked. Additionally, they did actually weld a wing onto this nut. So at least I didn't have to actually have a wrench to get it off. But why they didn't just weld this fucking thing to the frame, the little bracket up there, it's bolted on. Why they didn't just do that? I don't know. Chrysler. All right, well, that's one side done. Could have been easier, but Chrysler. Christ almighty, that is done. That one was even worse than the other one. So you'd think it'd be, oh, nice and easy. You can see the nut right there. Well, that's the nut, not the bolt. The bolt has an exhaust hanger and a heat shield in the way. So you have to put a big boy extendo on in order to break it free, and you've got to go all the way over that. And of course, that means that you run into using a big old breaker bar socket wrench. You run into the e-brake cable, the ABS sensor wiring harness, the drive shaft, as well as, of course, the muffler. And so, yeah, so that's fun. Those scratches right there from my damn socket. Finally got that broken free, and then I had to switch to the damn ratcheting wrench because I had barely just a cunt hair of room right here. Why they didn't put this on that side and put the nut on this side so you could just, you know, stick a wrench right here and then just go and run that off with an impact gun, I don't know. Chrysler engineers. I think they did a lot of coke in the fucking drawing room there. But anyway, I digress. I think finally we have the suspension done. I think. Can I be so bold? But yeah, that's back on. And the best part about doing this, even if the alignment is messed up and everything, is that I've got blue bushings and yellow shocks. So the most important part is there, and that's people know that I did my suspension. Seriously, if you squat your truck, you deserve to be drawn and quartered in public, and your family name forever stricken from the annals of history. And that drawing and quartering should be done by 4 beautifully restored, intact, factory setting square bodies. So, you know, just to drive it in. And I know that's a contentious opinion. Most people would rather see everyone who squats their truck executed by firing squad, but I just think drawing and quartering sends a much better message. You know, it really drives it home that, you know, that is not a socially acceptable practice in any way, shape, or form, and that it should never be tolerated by civilized society. I mean, I think it's just, you know, we've come so far as a society that we just can't permit that kind of barbarism, you know, to perpetuate anymore. I think it's time to, good God, look at that fucking hair. I think it's time to finally test drive this goddamn thing. So we're just going to run her up to the end of the road and back and see how bad the alignment is. I have a feeling it is going to pull, I'm guessing it's going to pull that way, more than likely, by a skosh. And probably be a real dog on account of, you know, the camera being fucked up, but we shall see. Let's hope I didn't leave anything in the way. Y'all want to see me absolutely fucking cream a deer? Anyway, we're on the pavement, and it's not bad at all. It actually pulls to the right a little bit. Steering wheel is a little bit off center too. All right, I think that's pretty damn good. It ended up just being one extra turn in on that side, and that's all it, or one half turn on that side, and that's all it took. Just pulled that one in a little bit. Now, oh, there goes the deer. It's fawn season, so the deer like to just hang out wherever and jump in front of cars. At least they're slow about it on my road. I will say, if nothing else, the suspension is markedly nicer, so that was worth it in and of itself. Well, maybe not. I'm only 14 hours in at this point, but anyway, I digress. Copium aside, it's about as close as I can expect with the camber being screwed up, so I don't think I'm gonna lose sleep over it. I think this is pretty good. I mean, yeah, that's good enough. It's good enough. It's beer o'clock. I need to not do this right now because I could be asleep an hour from now. So anyway, I think that's pretty good. Fucking shit, they've got us surrounded. Oh my god, they're coming for blood. But I put you on the other side so that you wouldn't... Who the fuck are you? Who do you... Good god, they're everywhere. Holy fuck, it's dumb. Holy shit, they're everywhere. Oh my god. Just look at them fucking guys. Look at these dudes. Look at these individuals, these fellas. Look at that fucking toad. All right, well, I'm doing a dump run, and we got some kind of hailstorm coming through, so that's gonna be fun. Always like getting rained on when I'm dumping recycling, but anyway, I digress. Truck's got a little bit of vibration in the front end from the wheels that are not quite balanced. I completely forgot I gotta put balance beads in those, so we're gonna do that here this weekend. But just driving her today to test her out. It's the first time I've had her up to highway speed since doing the shocks, and everything feels fine. Nothing hanky. I mean, I only got about 5 miles, but still, nonetheless. Yeah, just gonna put gas in her because, oh yeah, that's fun. Oofda. One of those rainstorms. Ah, gotta love the sea islands in hurricane season. Gotta love these little tropical fingers coming up and giving you a finger every now and again. Good lord, buddy, just coast. Anywho, haven't noticed any problems yet. I'll let you know if one of the wheels falls off, and we need to huck some balance beads in these things. Yeah, because I tried bubble balance them in the previous episode on this truck. I don't really call this an episode. Previous loose assemblage of me cursing and drinking. Bubble balancer wasn't that great. I mean, they're livable, but they're not great above 60. So I'm hoping a half measure of balance beads and all those tires will smooth that out. And it'll compensate for any mud and other crap and tire wear and whatnot too. So balance beads are nice when you can, you know, deal with them. But anyway, we'll be doing that. I'm gonna focus on the road now. All right, so I survived that. And sometimes you just really need a good wet finger in to, you know, sort out a girl and loosen things up. And looks like there's nothing wrong with the suspension. It really does not like hydroplaning. These Pirellis, they act different in the rain. But anywho, she's slipping and grabbing and twisting and stuff, but you know, that's just typical hydroplane things in a truck like this with no weight in the bed. But anyway, I digress. Road feels much better apart from the steering wheel shake from the imbalanced tires. So once I get those balanced out, I'll really be able to sort on whether or not we actually improved anything. All right, we get the point. Quit with the tropical fingering. Good lord. Good lord. Buddy, you up to the damn elbow at this point. Quit with the tropical fingering. All right, so as mentioned, I tried to balance the tires in this truck previously with that bubble balancer over there. And they're close, but they're not good at highway speed. They're good up to about 60, and then they start to get funny beyond that. It seems to be a harmonic at about 62 or 63. Could also just be the tires. But in order to suss that out, I am going to throw in about 3 1/4 to 3 1/3 ounces of glass balance beads in there. And so what these things are they are basically tempered glass beads, a little bit bigger than a grain of sand, and they spin inside the tire, and just due to, you know, how the centrifugal forces work, these things will move in the tire to where there is an imbalance in the tire, and at speed they will balance out any irregularities in the entire rotating assembly to the best of their ability. So balance beads are actually able to balance a tire better than, you know, static weights in any capacity. Actually, the ideal thing to use is like engine coolant, because it doesn't freeze. If you use water, it freezes, and that makes things really bad in winter. But engine coolant doesn't freeze, and it will, since it's not, you know, a physical bead, and it doesn't really have inertia apart from, you know, the individual globules of, well, anyway, that's physics. But basically, you can put ethylene glycol in a tire, and it'll balance perfectly in a pinch if you really have to. Like if you all of a sudden have a horribly imbalanced tire and you got to get home 8 miles, you can pop the radiator, take a turkey baster, suck up a full, you know, turkey baster worth of ethylene glycol, pop your valve stem cover out, and squirt that into the tire, and that'll balance and get you on the way home. I don't want to do that because I don't want ethylene glycol inside of my tires, because that just sounds like a pain in the ass. And then if you get a puncture, then it all leaks out, and then it's a real, you can't seal it. You know, you're not going to be able to get the vulcanizing compound to work and all that. Just don't do that unless you absolutely have to. So balance beads are a good intermediary rather than using fluid like that, because they're just beads. They're just tempered glass beads, so they're non-abrasive for the most part. I wouldn't really recommend using them in like high performance like aluminum rims, but on these big ass old truck aluminum rims, not going to make a big difference. The bigger the tire, the wider the tire, and the heavier the tire, the worse these do. But the skinnier the tire, and the taller the tire, and the lighter the rubber itself, the better these are. So they got their job cut out for themselves on this truck. They actually do fairly well in a tractor trailer, I hear. But you have to use like a couple cups. But anyway, I digress. I'm going to go through the tedious process of jacking up the car, pulling the valve stem, or jacking up one wheel at a time, pulling the valve stem, letting all the air go out. And then what we have to do is pour one of these into one of these, put guy on it, pop this cap off, and then very slowly do this for like 10 minutes to get all the beads in there. It is not a fun process, especially in this heat. So anyway, I'm going to shut up and get to it, and with any luck, we'll have a balanced truck at the end of it. Yeah, I'm looking at you. Some people. Good Lord. Anyway, so I'm adding these in here, and it's slow, and it's tedious, and you just kind of have to give it a little bit of beads, and give it a little bit of air, give it a little bit of beads, give it a little bit of air. Just kind of wiggle it. Doesn't help that my the only tube I could find was bent up. I threw out the one that came with it. I think it was oversized anyway, but so we're using a bit of one from a thing of slime, but it's a tedious process. It's so much easier to just add it when you have the tire off the rim, but then if you end up in a situation like I did where you have to, you know, explode the tire on the rim, you don't want beads in there because they'll get up on the bead and everything. So that's really only sustainable if you have a tire that you absolutely know is going to be easy to set. Oh, and that's the other thing too, is you don't want to have air blow out of this when you're setting the bead or anything, because it'll blow all the beads out as well if you don't have it set up correctly. So, you know, this is what you got to do. I'm about a third of the way there. I've been doing it for 5 minutes. Alrighty, well, that's all 4 of them done. In case it matters to anyone, we're using Counteract balance beads because that's what I had, and they've got a good marketing team on Amazon, so that's what I ended up buying years ago. But anyway, with any luck, these are going to balance out. Still have to do something about that bearing up there because it has not gotten any better, but it needs to be done because it is clearly smoked. But anyway, I digress. That's the next step in this series, but at the very least, let's see whether or not these tires are now balanced. Alrighty, so we're out on the highway, checking to see if those balance beads have compensated for that bad bearing or not, and taken out any of the slop in that wheel. But this highway is a little not great in the paving department, so we got a lot of shake again. But yeah, we're going 65 and we got a fair bit of vibration, but the road is a little bit of washboardy. Let me get onto a newer piece of pavement and see whether or not it's any better. All right, so we're on a flatter, straighter, newer set of pavement, and if we get this sucker up to 65, Yeah, we still got shake. So I definitely got to look at that bearing. It's not great. It's better than what it was, but the balance speeds seem to be inconsistent. I've noticed that with balance speeds, especially on, you know, these wider modern tires. Sometimes they get in the right spot, sometimes they get bunched up in a weird place. Sometimes you tap the brakes and they get all funny. Sometimes they get to a kind of a lumpy spot when you're accelerating. Anyway, they have their cons and they have their pros, but I mean, it's better than what it was. So I guess let's order up some bearings and see if we can do that. Maybe I'll have the patience to do the lower ball joints while I'm there as well, so we shall see. All right, my guys, I gotta level with you. My gill frizz has been off the fucking charts since I hit 30, and I honestly have no idea what to do. This is a complete non sequitur. It has nothing to do with anything that's going on right now in this video, but I am conflicted. I don't know what to do with all this gill frizz. Still don't quite have that mill frizz, but it's getting there, and yeah, I just don't know how to think, because I'm not really into gilfs, and I'm barely into milfs. So what is a man supposed to do with this much gill frizz? Alrighty, it's a week or so later, and today we are going to do the front wheel bearings and hubs, because I think you can just buy the bearing, but you know, it's for the amount of effort it's going to take to drive and put on new bearings out of already old rusty hubs, and then also have to deal with the old lugs and all that stuff. Might as well just do the new hubs. So they're not super cheap. They're about, for a decent one, about 75 bucks a piece. But thankfully I was able to get some Moogs on clearance. So they were about 45 bucks a piece, pre-tax. So not bad. But something I am noticing in here is, you may notice things are not the same between these two. So this is kind of the dice that you roll. Getting closeout stuff is it's literally closeout. So it's whatever the hell is left, and there's like basically no refund policy from Rockout. It's like 30 days. So if you don't immediately get to the thing after you order it, or like, you know, if your shipping gets delayed, you're kind of fucked. I don't think, you know, I don't think these are going to be bad. I'm not going to return any of these, but just let's look at the differences. But yeah, like if you notice on this one, this is this box, that's that box. This one has a no big ass snap ring, doesn't have made in Korea and parts listed on it. These are just like press fit in there. Also, tons of slop and no slop over here. That's kind of concerning, but all of this is going to be smashed together by this nut, so it doesn't really matter. Nuts appear to be exactly the same. You look here at the stud, different manufacturer on the stud. These are like pressed in. These are just set in. The hub itself seems to be the same part. You know, come on over here, same part number, but different electro penciling. This, you know, actually this is just like painted on. This is etched on. You know, same part number though, but you know, this one has indications from the same manufacturer as this bearing. So this appears to have all been made in-house and in the same factory, and this appears to be piecemeal. Don't know, but obviously these are being made in different factories to the same spec, so that is interesting. These studs appear to actually be longer on this Korean one, so that's interesting. Have a little bit more of a shoulder on them, I guess because it's pressed in. And this one came with a very nice dingus on it to protect the studs, and this one did not. And as you can see, the studs are bashed to shit because this just kind of banged around, so hopefully the lug nuts go on there, but that's interesting. So we're gonna see what the hell happens. This one honestly looks better to me, although this one looks cleaner. I just like this one more, so I'm going to put this one on the bad side and that one on the good side, and then I'm going to hang on to that still good bearing or wheel hub. Well, hang on to both of them till I have some time to put, you know, some tests on these. And if this one goes bad, then well, it'll be on that side, and I can just swap that bearing and hub back on because that one appears to be just fine. So anyway, without any further ado, we're going to dive into this. This should hopefully be a simple job that I hopefully don't have to do twice. Just pull the wheel off, pull the brake rotor off, pull the brake caliper off, then the rotor, and then it's just one central hub nut. This gets torqued on to 180 foot-pounds, so I don't have a breaker bar that goes up to that much, so I'm just going to go as high as my breaker bar goes, then go until my shoulder clicks. So 180 is about what I can do with, you know, just my regular arm strength. So I might get an extension or something and figure out, you know, some way to make my torque wrench, you know, go a little bit more accurately. But anyway, it's a hub nut. Just get a damn thing tight so that, you know, on this one, not going to be so much of a problem because this lock ring is, you know, keeping the bearing together. This one, since the bearing's kind of doing this, probably a lot more important that I get that one correctly torqued. So anyway, I'll figure that out when I get to that point. But yeah, and then to get the old one off, I'm hoping I can just jam a crowbar behind it, then tap the side with a mallet and just have it pop right off, because this isn't like, you know, a press fit one onto a spindle. It's just being held there, so it should just be, you know, whatever rust and other friction bonding has happened to this thing over the last couple of years. So should just need a little bit of leverage and a wallop. If not, I've got a gear puller, so I'll use that. But anyway, without any further ado, I'm going to get in here and get these suckers off of here, and hopefully it goes super smooth, and I don't have anything to complain about. All right, so I got both hubs disassembled, and I just wanted to give you one quick little fun fact, you know, pro tip for working on these Dodges as well as Jeep Liberties and anything else from Chrysler from this era is have a spare bag of lug nuts. Just go to a scrapyard and just pick up a whole mess of lug nuts from there and just, you know, put them in the old back pocket or whatever, or you actually pay for them. But usually they just come along with me whenever I'm getting other shit. But, you know, I have already destroyed 3 lug nuts on this truck just from today, you know, just using this cheapo impact gun. And additionally, I've, you know, messed them up just with breaker bars and stuff. But these clamshell lug nuts that Chrysler used kind of suck because all it takes is a little bit of delamination and then that comes off. And if that happens after you torque the lug nut and you don't realize it, you're going to have a bad time, because this right here is 3/4, well, 19. This right here is 11/16, or approximately 17. So if you do this and go, oops, and then put your 19 on it, you will just round this sucker off, and you are SOL, because this is mild steel, and this is like chrome plated, like spring steel. That's just sandwiched over it. So a quick upgrade you can do to any of these, you know, Chrysler trucks to potentially save you a nightmare later on down the road is buy a set of solid steel lug nuts for these things. I mean, they're not cheap. They're like $2 a piece, so that's like 25. So I mean, after tax and everything, you're paying like 60-70 bucks for lug nuts, which is not great, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper than having to you know, cut a stud off and drive it out to get your wheel out, or, you know, have to cut a wheel off. Anyway, I digress. So go ahead and do that if you actually care about your truck, or go to scrapyard and just have a big pile of lug nuts lying around. These all came off at the Jeep when I put solid steels on the Jeep after I took the thing to a 4x4 shop, and they gave whatever lube tech was there the impact gun, and he put that thing on with about 13 Ugga-Duggas, and I ended up like destroying 5 of my lug nuts trying to get the front wheels off because they were torqued to like 300 something foot-pounds. Yeah, so anyway, I'm having to replace one for this wheel, so that's 3 for this entire escapade. And yeah, get yourself some solid steels, or, you know, get a big pile of lug nuts from the scrapyard, and just to be safe, and throw a couple in the glove box as well. But at this point, we are finally where we can start trying to pull off the old hubs. And these suckers are a 35mm, same as 2005 Jeep Liberty. So I thankfully have this big 35mm impact socket. And yeah, they're on with 180 foot-pounds, so they're probably going to take 200 plus foot-pounds to take off. So make sure you have good jack stands, and you know, like these Widow Killer Harbor Freights that I'm using, and you know, back it up with a actual jack as well. Just make sure it's on a solid surface, and crack these suckers free. I am going to attempt to get them off of my breaker bar and the cheater bar, and if they come off with that, then good deal. And don't booger up your threads, because that spindle is staying there unless you're replacing the entire hub assembly, but I didn't need to do that, so I'm not doing that. But we're going to attempt to get these off. I'm hoping I can just break this nut free, and again, just jam a crowbar on there and tap it. But I'm just going to go for broke with the gear puller, because it should be easier. You just set that sucker on there, get it nice and tight, tap it with a hammer, make sure it's torqued, and you know, hopefully it should just pop off, this being a sealed unit and all. All right, well, after a quick distraction where I helped my cousin with the lawnmower air filter, we have the new hubs on. They actually just slid right off. You don't need the gear puller. I mean, you might need the hammer, but like, you can probably just get by with just jamming a screwdriver behind it and just tapping it. I literally just grabbed it and just went and pulled them off. So that's all there is to them, because this is a sealed bearing. It is a straight shaft. It is not conical, so there is no press fit, welding, anything like that. It is just being clamped between the two ends of the spindle. So easy peasy. That's been done. So I just have to torque these now. And like I said, I don't have a torque wrench that goes up to 180. I think it only goes up to 150. So I'm gonna have to do some math, or at least torque this thing to 150, and then give it the old Chevy head bolt thing, torque it to 150, and then give it another quarter turn, or at least till my arm pops. I was able to get both of them off with a breaker bar with the cheater bar. It was like just to the point where I had to I was just putting a little bit more pressure on it than I really felt comfortable with, my 70-year-old, or however old is this thing, 50-year-old breaker bar. And then I just gave it just a little bit more, and it just popped right off. So, yeah, I don't think this is going to be difficult at all, but we shall see. Famous last words. All right, so doing some math. This is effectively a 16-inch breaker bar. That is from the center of the chuck to right about the end in Craftsman. So that's the effective length of this breaker bar, because you're not going to be able to use, this ½ inch up here, or that extra inch down there. It might technically be 18 inches long, but you've got this distance on the chuck and where you can actually put your hand on this thing. So effectively it's 16 inches long. And did some math, and so if I put 240 foot-pounds of force right here at 16 inches, that is doing 180 foot-pounds of work right there at the actual socket. However, I don't weigh 240 pounds. I regrettably weigh 220 pounds right now, and I'm wearing 5 pounds of clothing. So if I put exactly my whole body weight right here at 15 inches, that will translate to 180 foot-pounds of work right at here. So all I have to do is just balance my entire weight right here, or at the very least get most of my weight at about 14 inches or 13 inches, and we should be pretty close, because my highest torque wrench is only 100 pounds. So we are not even getting close with that, so we shall see. All right, so the new wheel hubs are on there, and I have torqued them to a new standard unit that we should all use, and that is 1 Tom short cubit. That is the exact torque they are, dialed in at. And so a short cubit is from the tip of my fist to the center of my elbow joint, and a Tom is now a standard unit of 225 pounds. I would much rather that be 180 pounds, but I digress. So that is our torque spec for these suckers. And yeah, I'm just gonna send it, because I mean, it's as long as I don't have any play, which I don't, that's not going to open up, because like I said, these are not conical spindles and these are not conical bearings. So yeah, so it's not like they're going to open up and move and all that stuff. They're only going to expand upward. The spindle is not going to get any longer, not appreciably. So this is not going to loosen up. Additionally, these are, spring-loaded nuts. So this little dish back in here flexes, and that puts torque down on the thing and squishes it. Additionally, we've stretched threads, so that's all going to stay together. I'm not worried about it. It's 180 foot-pounds back. If it's off by 20 foot-pounds, it's not going to be the end of the world. So I'm going to quit worrying about it, and I'm going to put everything back together, and we're going to take this thing for a test drive, and hopefully we don't have any vibration anymore, because having a completely sacked out bearing does in fact lead to front end vibration. And when it's the driver's side front, yeah, you feel that. So you can tell that these bearings are going bad because there's grease everywhere coming out of a sealed bearing, which is never a good sign. So we're gonna put this crap back together, and hopefully that's the end of this. There we go. Both those suckers back on. All that's left to do is torque lugs and take her for a test drive. All right, so we're out here on the highway testing things, and let's just see how she does up at highway speed. And pretty dang quiet. Not really feeling any vibration, a little bit of balance just because of the fact that it's an unloaded truck and all that with off-road tires on it. But let's get her on up to that harmonic point I was experiencing before. And still a little bit of that harmonic, so that might just be the fact that the wheels aren't perfectly balancing, because I still got vibration. But if I go faster, yeah, it just keeps getting worse when I get up to about 65. So seems to just be a wheel balance issue there. That's not the bearings, because, well, obviously I did the bearings. So yeah, I'll just have to go take this thing and get it professionally aligned to get rid of that. But glad to have those bearings done, because that was really worrying me for the last week or so, because I know what bad bearings can go from bad bearings to non-existent bearings in a hurry. So I know not to dawdle on those types of things. But anyway, I digress. Looks like we're actually got a better, quieter truck now, even though we put off-road tires on. So alrighty, so the new bearings haven't made anything worse, but it's actually not all that much better. So I really need to get that wheel balance and alignment done, because I feel like that is not working properly. But I'll put some more miles on it and see how I feel. I generally never drive this thing over 62 miles an hour anyway, and the harmonic seems to be about 65. It seems to disappear at about 70. It seems to show up at about 63. So I mean, I really just drive this thing, around town and back. So I'm not too worried about it. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. So one thing I am going to keep track of, though, is fuel economy, because I just did new shocks on the Jeep, because I think that is going to actually improve my fuel economy. And as of the last 2 fill-ups and what's about to be my 3rd fill-up, it looks like I have, in fact, noticeably increased my fuel economy in the Jeep just by doing my shocks by non-0%, by like 5 to 10%, which is... who'da thunk? But it's probably just something to do with the garbage geometry of that suspension. But I want to see if that does anything to the truck, because we have done new shocks all the way around on the truck. For the Jeep, I did do new shocks all the way around, plus new springs in the front, because I just did the whole struts. So we'll see. So I'm going to continue that saga in that video over there that's currently ongoing. But I think I would hazard to guess that this should improve my fuel economy in this truck, which is desperately needed, because it gets like 17 to 18 miles a gallon on a good day. So anyway, we shall see. But I think that's the end of this video. So if you like what I'm doing here, consider giving the video a like, comment. Tell me what else I should fix on this truck that you think might, affect my ability to enjoy and not utterly hate this wonderful piece of Chrysler engineering. And if you want to see me hammer on this pig a little bit more, you gotta subscribe. So smash that gray button down there. Until next time, I'm out.